and we will then open the floor to any questions or comments that anyone has. First, to special program staff in the room for any commentary or questions, and then we will open it up to the general audience joining us today. You are also available to use the chat if you are in a sound restricted space. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Patrick Hughes. Patrick, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. I cannot see who all is there from with the setup that I've got right now, but thank you for coming. I appreciate you being here. Yeah, this is my end of year report, 2025 to 2026 academic year. So first off, I can't see who's in here, but if there are any freshmen, yeah, I do in fact exist. I have been gone for a minute. So this year was a bit non-traditional for me. This summer, I was at NASA Johnson working on spacecraft reentry parachutes. Over the fall, I participated in the UT Archer Fellowship, working two jobs at the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology, and then the Office of the Senate's Help Committee Chairman. And then this spring, I went back to NASA and kind of picked up my parachute work right back where I left off. So I'm excited to kind of go through it today. So first off, I'm actually going to start just kind of for purposes of continuity's sake with my fall with the Archer Fellowship, and then kind of bundle my two NASA experiences into one. And I think that at this point, it's interesting to note that at this time last year, I beyond summer had no idea what my year was going to look like. I hadn't heard back from Archer. I'd actually assumed that Archer hadn't worked out. I didn't know if NASA internships were even going to be a thing with the federal funding situation, which is a whole other story. But that said, it's been really interesting to see how this year is shaped up from kind of a point of so many unknowns. So getting started with the Archer Fellowship. Again, this is if you're not familiar, a fellowship in DC that the UT system does that combines policy coursework with internships in the policy space. So I'm kind of going to go over the coursework, the internships that I did, and general life in DC. So to kick things off, this is I'll kick things off with coursework. And to kind of give some background for this, the reason that I wanted to do Archer as a mechanical engineering major, that's not necessarily the most traditional path to go. But the reason I applied was I saw last summer, summer 2024, working at NASA Johnson, that federal policy actually really has a big influence. Who knew? Um, and as I kind of saw that influence play out, and I saw the good things about the relationship between like NASA and the federal government, and then all the really broken things, I figured, hey, it would actually probably be worthwhile if I'm going to have a career working in the federal government at NASA to understand the policy process a bit better. And when it comes to actually achieving that goal of understanding the policy process, the Archer Fellowship classes were some of the most useful ones for me. So it was split into three classes: policy making process, politics of national memory, and advocacy in politics, with a fourth class that was kind of looped in with our internship, trying to make the most out of it. But policy making process, I think, was my favorite. Again, this was the one that really achieved my original goal to the greatest extent. This was just nuts and bolts of how policy gets passed. So as a part of this, you kind of go through the original process. The professors are all people who are actively working on Capitol Hill, passing policy at that moment. So my professor was an awesome professor named Gordon Waverly, and she was on the staff for the House of Representatives Committee on Energy. And that's it's a longer name, but getting that experience, the class actually kind of the final project was everyone coming together and doing a mock markup and hearing for our said committee. It was we did it on an act called the Learn to Brain Act, which was a healthcare act. But it kind of immersed you in the process in a way that was very unique from just learning about it. from like lectures or from a book. Our my class stirred up some pretty significant kind of conflicts within that just for fun, not actual conflicts. But that was a really neat experience when it comes to learning kind of the fundamental goal I had when trying to go to Archer. Other class was politics of national memory. That's where all these photos are from. We would do this class at different sites around DC every week, and it was really a discussion on who America remembers, memorializes, and celebrates. Got to do it at the class at the Einstein Memorial. The one with the nice sunset photo is at the World War II Memorial at graduation week. Additionally, we did make as a final project, kind of like a I guess you'd call it a monument. That the goal was to try to figure out if you were going to add something to the National Mall, what direction would you take, and who is underrepresented and underremembered by kind of the culture of America at the moment. So it was a really interesting class. Advocacy in politics was just about soft skills of kind of effective personal conduct within a policy context. I wish I could get into these more, but for time's sake, I will move on to the internships. The internship process and kind of culture on Capitol Hill was really interesting. And it was very different than kind of what I had experienced before. So again, the first section, what kind of the job that I had when I first came to Archer was at the U.S. House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology, which made sense for me, right? Like it fit a lot with the goal that I had of coming to DC to learn how federal policy interfaced with like science and well space and technology with my specific background. So my jobs in this role were supporting committee hearings and markups, attending technical briefings, and preparing material statements for committee members. You can see one of my jobs was taking photographs in hearings. So what these committees do, it's committees of kind of groups of Congress people, and they move forward legislation that's relevant to the topic of their committee, and they'll hold hearings with kind of expert panels on relevant topics. And so it was a neat place to be because there were some very smart folks who knew a lot about what I was interested in, who were there. Um, Once you can see, I have two internships on here. And that's because while we were in DC, the government shut down for 40 days. And that meant that I got furloughed from my House of Representatives job. So I was unemployed for about 2 weeks. And then I had a conversation with my boss, John Piazza, who is kind of the guy who's in charge, the staff member in charge of the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. Um, and ended up deciding that with how long the government shutdown could go on, it made sense to try to find a different job um, to kind of actually, get the experience that I came to DC to get. My roommate happens to have a posting open in his office, which was the Senate office of Senator Bill Cassidy, who chairs the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. And so I went to there after 2 weeks of government shutdown, answering constituent phone calls and doing some research on programs like the NASA LEO Destinations program for commercial space stations. Uh, Really, what this job was, if I'm being honest, and there were some cool parts about it. I got to, have breakfast with the senator. I got to hang around the Capitol a lot. Mostly, it was answering phone calls and getting yelled at by constituents, and it was a funny experience because I actually the House committee side of things that I entered on was with the Democrats, and Senator Cassidy is with the Republican. I tend to lean more. My views vary, but I disagree with Senator Cassidy on a lot of things. So I was kind of answering the phone calls and I was getting yelled at, and I was like, I kind of agree with you, but I can't say that. But I will say, I think it was an incredible experience getting to work for someone who I disagreed with. I think that my time in Senator Cassidy's office allowed me to have conversations with really smart, really well-meaning people who just straight up disagreed with me, and to understand their positions better. And when it comes to just my empathy for other people, and frankly, my effectiveness in kind of in the future pursuing anything in the policy space, I'm very grateful that I had the chance to kind of immerse myself in a situation where people didn't agree with me. So that was a really neat experience. That was internships, but honestly, aside from the internships and classes, the real highlight of Archer was just the social stuff. So just living in DC. Oh, is this going to move forward? Living in DC is fun. It's a fun city. And specifically with the Archer Fellowship, you're there with 48 people. I had great roommates and made a ton of friends. Got a lot of cool experiences. The museums are incredible. I got to see the space shuttle they've got. It's their Air and Space Museum there. Snowed one day, which was awesome. Played frisbee on the Capitol lawn, which has been on the bucket list for a minute. So that was really exciting. Um, Beyond that, tons of trips available. So got to go to New York City with a bunch of friends, see the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, have an awesome time there. And got to go to Shenandoah National Park, and this is among other trips. Shenandoah is beautiful. This was peak fall colors, which I've never seen as a native Texan. And it was beautiful weather. The kind of coloring and the landscape was really unique to any experience that I've had. This photo here of us kind of sitting on this hill, you can't see it, but there's a really big hill beside this, and so a bunch of us had just rolled down it, and then climbed back up. But that moment, just getting to be in nature after being in kind of the city of DC for so long, I think I really love this picture because I think it captures honestly what I would say is the happiest moment of my year if I had to choose one. And so that was an incredible time. This is a photo of us at the airport and photo outside the plane leaving. Very nostalgic moment. It's one of those things where you're not going to have an experience like this again. And in some ways, I was happy to be leaving, and in other ways, it's very very conscious of the fleeting nature of time. But that was just the fall. And so I want to now get into NASA. So this is my summer last year, 2025. And then I'm there right now for spring. And so my job, I work on a system called Hyperstep. So this is a small spacecraft. It's about like a meter and a half, 2 meters long. But the purpose of this spacecraft is to serve as a test platform for reentry technologies. So if you want to test a heat shield or an algorithm for guidance and control or some parachute technology, anything related to getting a spacecraft from orbit down to being safe on the ground. So my job here was parachutes, which was picking right up on the work that I had done summer 2024. Um, and my kind of main role within this capacity over the summer and right now is to finish up the design and kind of work out the kinks in the system of the parachutes for this spacecraft. And then more so than that, actually develop a test plan to go through and within each kind of failure mode of these parachutes to test and make improvements on the design, and kind of take out as much risk from the system as possible. And I'll be honest, the test campaign was what really stretched me. The process of going about it in a smart way, making sure you weren't wasting time, and then planning so many tests concurrently because there is kind of a lot of logistics and forethought that goes into each one of these tests, all happening simultaneously. So if you've got multiple tests upcoming, beyond any technical stuff, that was really the challenge, and that was where I feel like I've grown the most. Um, so this was the summer. To kind of set the scene, I've got the picture of the deer there. JSC is a really beautiful place. It's a nature preserve, as well as being a space center. But there are all these baby deer. If you go onto campus early or late at night, you'll see like rabbits hopping around and possums and armadillos. It's like a Disney movie. It's really fun. So that was a cool part about it. But over that summer, something I think that's important to call attention to. I had mentioned how important federal policy is to NASA. That summer was when the threats of budget cuts for the agency were kind of at their highest. So in some ways, it was kind of a discouraging time. My entire management chain left. There was a opportunity called deferred, what was it, DRP, deferred resignation, basically. But a ton of folks left the agency at that time. And kind of the general mood was people were like, hey, we don't even know budget cuts were being proposed, that we're going to gut the Artemis program and all the science missions. And folks were kind of thinking, I don't know if what we're doing now really means anything in that case. Uh, and so that summer was a funny mix of being really cool, but then also kind of this looming fear of what's coming next. So I went out, did Archer, and then and then came back. Um, in between those, right at the end of my summer internship, I got to go to Kennedy Space Center. And this was really cool, just as kind of a counteract to the cynicism of all of the kind of current events going on with the agency. As a part of this trip, I got to go with some really good friends who were interns and a lot of engineers who worked on the Orion program. Got to see that's us by the launch abort system for Artemis 2. This is the kind of crawler that they use to transport the rocket from place to place. I couldn't show a picture of it in here, but actually there was a big test that got done for Artemis 2, and there was a kind of program celebration that we all got invited to. I was able to meet Jeremy Hansen, who's one of the Artemis 2 astronauts, and dance the Macarena in a group with him as a part of it. So I thought that was a pretty cool claim to fame. But I got to see the Orion vehicles for Artemis 2 through 5, the SLS rocket for Artemis 2, kind of all the hardware. And it was a very exciting moment to get to do all that. And so this was encouraging. Went to Archer, came back for part two, where I did a lot of similar stuff. The big difference this semester has been that a big part of my job was getting ready for a presentation called Critical Design Review. And so for engineering projects, especially for NASA, when you have a spacecraft that's kind of interdevelopment enough that you're about to kind of start like cutting metal and doing the manufacturing on the final pieces, you have this big meeting called Critical Design Review. It goes for like 2 days, and it's just going through the entire system with an outside panel of experts, and pretty much getting grilled on your design choices, and trying to make sure that you're not making any mistakes, and work out any issues that you have in the system. And so I ran this presentation for the parachute subsystem because I really am the one leading the development of the parachutes for our vehicle. This was really neat experience to get as an intern. Definitely not something that I expected to be able to get, but being able to boil everything down that much, it ended up being like a 15-minute presentation with a ton of questions mixed in. It was a really neat experience, and it was tough to do because of the standards required. But we got it done. That was last week, and we got really good reviews in our system. I got to meet Gene Krantz. That was cool. He signed my Lego Saturn V rocket, which I thought was pretty awesome. Got to see the Artemis 2 astronauts on their way back after they splashed down from their moon mission. You will see, it's interesting. You'll see, I think, less photos of my actual work as opposed to my exit presentation last year. Stuff has been getting tighter, just honestly as the space race has been heating up. So kind of seeing world events have an impact has been an interesting step as well. I also want to call attention to the fact that the Artemis 2, oh, let's see.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just need to give you a quick time check. You've got about 5 minutes until we need to transition to our next person.
Thank you for saying that. I think that we can call it there. I'll show you all the beautiful photo of the moon that came back from Artemis 2. This was really impactful for me. If you ever want to hear about the parallels between Artemis 2 and the 1968 Apollo 8 mission, let me know. I could talk about it for a while. Had a lot of other fun. I got locked in a storage facility, which was actually a very innocent thing. We were trying to help a friend out, and the facility automatically locked. So that was kind of chaotic. I was a member of two weddings. I had a cricket taco with Jose. Lots of other fun involves. And so what's next? I'm gonna go back to NASA to work on the parachutes partially for this summer to prep for flight test one of our vehicle. Go back to UTSA. The two goals that I have for sure are learning sewing for textile engineering and joining the ping pong club. But other than that, we'll see. We'll see what the semester looks like. And there's some unknowns on what things are going to look like after that. But overall, it was an incredible year. Really cool experiences were had. I grew a ton. I learned a ton, and I'm really excited that I got to have those experiences. It's really a privilege. That's not something that's easy to take for granted. So I'm just grateful that kind of all the support systems that we went in place to let me do that. But thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Patrick. It's, first and foremost, we miss seeing you here on this campus, and it's definitely been a while, so we look forward to your return. But I think this was a great year for you, and we're excited to hear and see and help be part of what comes next.
I
I
appreciate it.
I will just say, yeah, it's impressive what you're doing. It's great. We do miss you definitely on campus, but I can't wait to hear even more detail. And I love that you've really seemed to appreciate every step of this as well, because that's, it'd be a shame to have you do all this and look back and go, yeah, it was a year. You know. Yeah, yeah. So cool what you've been able to do.
Indeed. Do we have any questions or comments from the rest of our audience?
Thanks to all y'all online. That's really sweet. It means a lot.
Yeah, I can go. Hey Patrick, it's good to see
Jose.
you again. I know it's really early for me, not for you. But I'm really sad that you didn't take my advice and do senior year this year so we can all graduate together. But I like the fact that you stuck to your gun. You did what you said you were going to do, and you're still doing great things. So, congrats. Although I'm sad that we don't get to graduate together, I will see you next year, then hopefully. So, yeah, good luck.
I'm excited to go out to Utah.
Oh yeah. The door's always open.
Okay, I'll go quickly. I'll just echo what I wrote in the chat already, but I just found the work you're doing right now to be incredibly impressive, especially taking initiative on, that whole presentation where you're being grilled by experts in the field. That's very, very uncommon for an intern, I presume, and it sounds like you killed it, so congratulations. I also really like how you took initiative and went to the Archer Fellowship experience, took a chance, and seems like you learned a lot. I know it's probably a really difficult time, especially with the government shutdown. So just want to congratulate you and commend your adaptability and willingness to be challenged and learn from it.
I really appreciate it, Jonah.
We have a comment from Miss Foster who says she is so impressed and says, good job. Eshwar in here with a comment. Twin, you have been an incredible mentor and friend. I appreciate everything you've done. You do some legendary stuff, man. Thanks for everything.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
And then we have a message from Fernando who says, proud of you, Patrick. We miss you on campus, indeed.
Yeah, I miss being there. I'm excited to be back.
Indeed. Final call for any other questions or comments from our audience. If there are none, then this concludes Patrick's presentation, and we are going to move to a brief intermission and begin again in the next few minutes when we hear from Jonah Espinoza. So thank you all for being with us.